Said than done out here. Paul felt his chest tighten as a sudden wave of apprehension swept over him. I'm sure. They want us on the ground right now. Give them a thumbs up. We'll set it down over there. Jim pointed to a small clearing. We should be able to pull that off. Maybe. He gave Paul an unnerving grimace. Paul signaled the gunships, causing them to back away, although they continued to follow close. He turned to Jim. What do you need from me? Keep an eye on the gauges. I'm going to have all I can do just to keep us upright on that uneven terrain. The choppers hovered dangerously near as they forced the Cessna down. Jim maneuvered the plane past a few broken trees and approached the short, rough clearing. The gunships gave them some space, just enough to land. This is going to be bumpy. Paul nodded tensely. That's an understatement. They touched down and the plane rattled as if it were pulling apart at the rivets. They skidded to the right and stopped, just before reaching a massive rock jutting from the ground. Engulfed in the sandstorm of the landing choppers, the plane trembled. Before the dust cleared, soldiers circled the aircraft with assault weapons trained on the cockpit. Don't move yet, Jim spoke calmly as he shut the engine down. Wait till they tell us. I've heard too many stories. These guys don't play. A tall officer wearing fatigues, a sidearm, and an imposing knife on his belt approached the plane. Come out. Hands over your heads. If you have weapons, we shoot. His English was crude but understandable. Paul and Jim exited the craft, and 4 North Sudanese guards pushed them against the tail to search them while several others climbed on board, pulled out their duffels, and tossed them on the ground. The body odor of the soldiers, mixed with the arid air and settling dust, nauseated Paul. He leaned against the plane. Turn around. Keep your hands up. Paul took a deep breath to steady himself before he and Jim turned to face the commander. Passports, he said impatiently. Paul pulled out his papers and the commander snatched them from him, then motioned for them both to put their hands over their heads again. He flipped through Paul's passport, reviewing every page. You checked in to have your documents stamped in Arua this morning. Yes, we usually stop in Arua. You're Dr. Paul Branson. Paul looked at the man quizzically. Yes, I work in the villages of South Sudan, but my passport doesn't say I'm a doctor. How did you... Why you do not help our people in North Sudan? I'm not welcome in North Sudan. The commander looked back at Paul's passport, then showed it to another officer. They spoke quietly in Arabic. Paul listened intently, but only picked up the words, tell him, right away. As the second officer hurried back to the nearest chopper, Paul glanced at Jim, who shook his head, indicating that he hadn't made out what they were saying either. The commander turned back to Paul. Where do you go in South Sudan? He scrutinized the pages again from the front as if starting over. Flying into Mundri. You will stay there? Well, no, just passing through. Where do you go? Where do you stay? The commander seemed agitated. Mata. I'll be living in Mata for the next 3 months. The soldiers studied the markings on one page. Can I put my hands down now? Paul asked. No. I'm unarmed. I think we've proven that. I said no. The commander threw the passport on the ground at Paul's feet, turned to Jim and grabbed his papers. You are the pilot? He skimmed through Jim's documents. Yes, well, we're both pilots. I mean, I flew today, but he also... Never mind. Yes, I'm the pilot. Stay away from North Sudan. He thrust the papers into Jim's hands. Yes, sir. The commander turned his attention back to Paul. Pick up your passport. The moment Paul retrieved it, the commander stepped closer. Put your hands over your head again. Paul complied reluctantly. If you come near the border again, we shoot you. This is your warning. He moved within centimeters of Paul's face, stared at him, then turned and spat on the ground. The soldiers pulled boxes from the main passenger compartment and took them to the choppers. Paul lowered his hands. Those are my medical supplies. The commander pulled his pistol from its holster and Paul quickly raised his hands over his head again. He eyed Paul as he held the gun at his side. You care about North Sudan also, do you not? Paul didn't answer. You will donate these supplies, he demanded sardonically and stabbed the barrel of his pistol against Paul's chest. Paul didn't flinch. He knew they would probably sell the goods on the black market, but the cold steel against his ribs reminded him who had the upper hand. He watched in silence while the soldiers transferred case after case from the plane to their gun.